Hey traders, Jason Jenkins, head trader, Jenkins Risk Management. Hey, just do want to do. I haven't done a global macro update in a while, so towards the end of the week, it's good to take a look at some of the weekly closes, see what the markets are doing. So I like to start with the dollar. Long term, this is the daily chart. Market still held where it should have held back. What we call our TMS back in February, held the higher low right in front of 99. That was our call. So everything's still bullish long term. When you go to the weekly level, it's all the same wave formation. Bullish, bullish, bullish. This was just a higher low on the weekly. We had a nice 4-week bounce, so this is this is the oscillation or the cycle on the weekly level. It's been rising. So maybe we'll continue the next few weeks into these highs. But this weekly cycle has a little bit more room to run. So still dollar bullish overall. The euro is going to be the reverse, obviously, but the cycle's still coming down on the weekly. You're still in a downtrend. There's been some good trades to have had, some good trades, excuse me, to take advantage of this week and last. My team and I, we were shorting here right in front of 107, covering into the low, shorted again, covered into the low. We were building a core short up into 108 as well. But this daily cycle can come back down a little bit lower, maybe into next week. We did double bottom at 105 this week, which is worth noting. See on the 4-hour here, shorting, covered into the lows, reshorting, covered into the lows. I mean, it's not rocket science. But we did have some good covers, and I put some stuff back out short today that we covered yesterday. But you do need to give room here. I told my guys that, the range really is 105 to 107 now. So don't get too heavy on the first one-day bounce. Got to leave some room or some ammo to hit this thing up back at 107. I mean, the last high here was 106.80 pretty much. Cable broke down this week, and I don't know. My call is still that maybe a long-term low is in down here, but the fact that the market and price couldn't hold these lows around 123.5, it had a chance right here of breaking out back to 128. It's kind of a bit of a head fake. But we've had a nice 6-day move lower. You broke these lows, so you got to think about 120 now. But cable was definitely weak this week, and here's the cycle coming lower. So I don't have a position there. I would be a seller though into next week if we rally back about halfway, underside of this level that broke. That would make sense. Now, before we get to pound yen, let's look at dollar yen. The big move up was the end of last year. Now we retrace some of this move. What's interesting about dollar yen, let's see if I can zoom in better here. Well, when we were up here, it was obvious we were overbought. We retraced, rested, worked off some of this move. And these are the lower bands, as we call it in our model, right around the 112 area. That's what needed to hold, and it did. So I'm constructive and bullish dollar yen again. Now you do have this high up here in front of 115. The market's had a nice cyclical swing bounce. The daily cycle does a good job capturing the swing trade or intermediate term. But we want to be buyers on the next pullback, hourly, 4-hour pullbacks. If you look at the weekly level, the weekly cycle's just turning up. I mean, this is bullish. So I wouldn't be surprised dollar yen take another run at these highs. And if this is a higher low after making a higher high here, there's no reason to think we can't go back to 122, 123. That would be another big move, big picture global macro move. So I'm kind of leaning more yen weakness to come. You know, you saw how the types of returns that massive Japanese pension fund put up this quarter, like 92 billion. So Japan loves weak yen. I think you're going to get more of that. The Nikkei is just the opposite. Just same thing, just up, up and away. Down yen, up Nikkei. Still bullish there. Pretty much bullish world equity markets in general. Definitely the most bullish on the U.S. market. I guess we can go there in a second. Pound yen real quick, and we'll wrap up with Forex. Still largely in this consolidation pattern. You want to call it a pennant, whether you want to call it an ascending triangle, whatever. It's a consolidation pattern, right? And at some point we're going to reach the apex here. I think it's going to depend on whether cable holds 120 or dollar yen really does take off on another big picture move higher. That's going to determine which way pound yen's going to go. The dragon's either going back to 147 big picture or back here in the low 130s. So we'll see. That's still been a quiet range trade. I mean, we've been having some typical, very consistent day trade sessions. It's just the wins and the dollar amounts have been pretty small because we're not getting a lot of movement. Been very choppy. Not much to say about the Dow. I mean, we've been bullish ever since the election. It's just been, it hasn't looked back. I mean, this, if you look at the Dow Jones, the actual cash, when we step back on the monthly level, see if I can go back 20 years here. I mean, there's nothing. The top of the range, whether you're drawing a regression channel from the lows of 09 or this 20-year regression channel that captured the low here, you got to be looking for 22.5 to 23,000 as maybe the top of this longer-term market. All right, so it's not a short, that's for sure. We're definitely overbought, but we want to continue to be buyers on big picture pullbacks. It's going to be the same thing for S&P, the NASDAQ. We look at gold. I mean, gold has just had a nice failure right in here into the 200. Every technician in the world is going to have that on their chart. So we'll see how the market reacts to pi here. If it can't hold that, then you got to think about a move back here towards 1180. But I am playing along. I didn't add to it because I want to see the euro back up more. If the euro gets to 107, then I'll start buying gold again. Just like when the euro was tagging 105, we were taking profits on gold because down euro, up dollar, gold pulls back. I mean, when euro was at 105, we were buying. We were buying some gold. It's tough for the dollar to go down and the gold to go down is what I'm trying to say, big picture. So you can kind of trade around and play those two. But I am running a core long. I'm realized that we failed here. This is another long-term lower high relative to there. Here's a high, here's a high, here's a high. So we could be falling back all the way to these levels. But more than likely, it depends on how we get to 1180. If it's a straight drop to 1180, it should bounce. If we bounce first and then just kind of fall towards 180, it may be just a longer term basing period for the next leg higher. If we want to look at the long term. Again, this is showing you the 30-week rolling over. That's called a 30 halt in my model. The cycle's high. I mean, this is room to come back down for sure. But we'll see how it reacts here around the 8 going into next week. Still bullish inflation overall. I think that can still surprise to the upside. Still long copper. Still in a bullish uptrend. Oil's been pretty quiet. A little bit of life to the downside. I mean, I'm leaning small short via puts. I took some of those off into 53 puts I had. Still not that. Still a pretty boring trade overall this year. I don't know, guys. I think that's pretty much covers it here on a Friday. We'll touch base with the team on Sunday, and if I don't talk to you guys, enjoy the rest of your weekend.